Sounders, it's Mick, hello. Just a fairly short ramble this time. I want to talk about outgoings from our club and incomings as well at the end of it. But outgoings first, because there are very, very many more of them at this point in the summer, and because they're interesting, and because they're important, because they open up the club to opportunities to get new directions into the club. So we'll start off with Abdoulaye Kamara, because his release from Pompey purgatory has caused much comment. He was a bit of a mystery man, but now he's gone, we can consider him a bit more carefully and learn a little bit about him. Portsmouth FC History Channel, which is a very well-informed source of insight into Fratton Park, I find, and it has summed up Abdoulaye Kamara in just 3 words. They said of him, obvious attitude problem. I can't substantiate that claim with direct experience, but there have been rumours. And that's pretty sad, really, if true. Attitude problem. Well, very likely it could be put down to Kamara's age, very young man to have come across the channel, and the chasm of cultural differences between his upbringing, coaching and training, and life in PO4. I mean, massive darn difference between all of those things and what he found over here. But to balance that, he was a Pompey choice, a Pompey asset, a considerable investment indeed. And he would surely have had the best advice and encouragement of Pompey's coaching team, one would assume. So maybe it was all down to attitude, and somewhere along the line he just got his wires crossed about how good he thought he was, or how much he needed Pompey to help him. Somehow or other, the relationships all went wrong, and we're never going to know, well, at least we're never going to know at Fratton Park how he would have done. He's going to go off and have a career, and hopefully a very successful one elsewhere, and we'll keep an eye out for him, of course. But it has sort of sparked all the armchair critics to have us get in there, have a say. This is what happens, one says, when we don't have a decent academy. Well, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because he wasn't a member of our academy. He's nothing to do with our academy. He was part of a well-known pathway that we're taking of identifying young talent away from the South Coast and bringing young talent to Portsmouth. So it doesn't reflect on our academy in the slightest. Here's another comment. They bring in youngsters to improve and sell for a profit and then go back on that. Well, I don't think we've done that either. Admittedly, Abdoulaye Kamara was brought in to improve and sell for a profit, or to stay for a long time at Fratton Park, but eventually a profit will be made on him. But it won't always work. It won't always work. And it hasn't on this occasion. He has obvious talent, says someone else, but needs game time. Now, there is I can sort of see where they're going a little bit. It is a fact that it's difficult for young players to get into the first team situation or surrounds of the first team, and Kamara obviously didn't do that. We simply didn't reach that level with Pompey, and obviously they thought he would, and they thought he could, And he didn't. The next Messiah, someone else says. He was the next Messiah, bought for millions by our wonderful owners. I think there's some sarcasm entering into that comment. Well, he never was considered the next Messiah. That's ridiculous. Never was. Just a promising young footballer. And bought for millions? No. Certainly would not have been bought for millions. He obviously, there was a bit of an investment in him. Sometimes you win them and you lose them. But bought for millions? No way. The confidence, another person says, the confidence in the recruitment team is dwindling fast. How ridiculous is that, Sounders? It's just not on. I refer, whoever that was, Brain of Britain, to Segacic, Devlin, Swanson, Blair, Matthews. You're going to write all of them off already? It wouldn't be very wise to do so. The departure of Abdoulaye Kamara is not going to rock anyone's confidence in our recruitment team, or it shouldn't do. If it does, you're wafer thin in belief. It is obviously very sad for that young man, and he will be departing ruefully and may feel that he's had a wasted year. We will see. We will see whether his obvious promise when they first saw him, whether that can bring him glory somewhere else, on some other football field, probably in some other country other than the UK. The departures of Sadie and Towler were surely predictable, and they were surely fair to those players, and they had surely been given ample opportunity to flourish at Pompey, and had, to some extent, done just that. Hence their rapid sales. They were on the shelf very, very briefly, but not to the degree that one felt that they would impose themselves on the Championship. That was the key. Were they going to impose themselves on the Championship? It became doubtful. So farewell to two lovely personalities. Well, Sadie, perhaps not quite lovely, that's a bad word to describe that, but interesting and engaging. It will be fun to follow both of them in the lower divisions. And I should point out, both were sold for a profit. Now, Matt Ritchie is an altogether different departure. But the story has been well explained by John Massigno. Had he been happy, Matt, to continue to contribute to Pompey's stay in the Championship, he would have done so. But he wanted more than that. He wanted really a leading role in that stay. He wanted regular and constant game time, which he didn't have last season and couldn't be guaranteed a year on at 36 years of age. Fair enough, don't you think, from both points of view, and unsolvable as a problem. And so Matt Ritchie will soon be gone, with our gratitude, no doubt, and some great memories of his fine practice in the press. He was brilliant and inspiring as he helter-skeltered across the turf to regain possession for Pompey and beckoned on, waved on the rest of his troops to join him in the chase. We will miss him, I think. We will miss him. He galvanised the crowd often. But he will soon be gone, and we now have to come to incomings, and Matt Ritchie's replacement, you could say, not in terms of his role in the team, but in terms of age and experience and grounding in the Championship. John Swift has got all the attributes to bring those qualities into John's Mousinho's possession again. I have to confess, and this is a little bit awkward for me, but I have a big friend who's a baggy. Many years supporter of West Bromwich Albion, and he, I'm afraid, supports what many West Brom supporters have been saying about Swift in the last few days on social media. The kind ones say that he was inconsistent and could drift out of games. The mean ones, the harsh critics, questioned his heart and his commitment. And all I can say to my baggies mate, who actually sort of goes along with what they're saying, I'm afraid, all I can say to him is, and we're going to the Hawthorns, we're going up there together, and we will see for ourselves just how John Swift turns out for Pompey. I've got the greatest hopes. Even the harshest of West Brom critics admit he's a fine player on his day. And it seems to me like a very clever signing of an out-of-contract player of such great experience in an area of the pitch we are desperate to strengthen. It really does all make sense, Sounders, doesn't it? I hope we haven't stretched our wage budget too far to persuade him to come to PO4. I'm sure we haven't, actually, because we don't do that sort of thing. Baggies fans are claiming that he was on 25 grand a week. I'm not sure that he was getting quite that, but I'm equally sure that we won't be paying that. But equally, we will be addressing a Championship wage structure these days, and you do have to pay for the experience that he's bringing in to our club. Hopefully John Swift will be happy to be back home on the south coast, and he will give us his all for a couple of years or more, in which case we'll have done great business. And there's more business on the way, I'm assured, Sounders, so we'll talk very soon. But for now, it's back to the friendlies. Play up, Pompey.